Good morning, everybody. You're listening to 89.1 FM WXVU Villanova student-run radio, The Roar. It's 1:12 p.m. right now on this beautiful Wednesday, April 26, 2023, and you're listening to Fun in the Locker Room. As always on this day, we recap everything in the world of sports, hot takes, debates, headlines, and everything in between. Liam Hallway, True Car Sitter, our beloved co-host Sean Rankel is not here today. He's actually on assignment in New York interviewing Max Scherzer about the latest suspension. So we'll have that segment for you when he returns next week. So be sure to check in every Wednesday, as always. But next Wednesday, you're not going to want to miss that exclusive content on Fun in the Locker Room. Don't forget to go to our YouTube to look at all of the archived recordings from the past weeks. If you want to call us out on some of our terrible takes, terrible predictions, go for it. And if you do so, tweet us on our Twitter at Fun in the Locker Room. We try to keep active on there and talk to some of the fans whenever possible. But right now we have a lot to get into. It's been one of the busiest weeks of sports to date. We have the NBA playoffs. A lot of first rounds have just recapped and just finished, so we will be sure to recap those. In the world of the NFL, what's been a quiet offseason has quickly picked up with the Aaron Rodgers trade finally happening. We'll talk about the draft compensation that the Jets provided to the Packers, and then also maybe some NFL draft headlines that have been approaching. The draft, I believe, is tomorrow, is the first round, right? I think something like that. And then MLB, if we have any headlines, the season has been progressing, still very young, but any important headlines we'll cover. So we're going to be here for the next 45 minutes to an hour or so you're not going to want to miss this. Stick around. 89.1 FM, WXVU, Villanova student-run radio, The Roar. Liam, what series do you want to start with in the NBA?
Let's get right into it. Probably the most surprising series, I'd say, in the entire playoffs. Heat Bucks. Heat are up 3-1 on the number one team in the NBA. This is absolutely ludicrous. Now, we talked about the playoffs at the beginning of, I think, 2 weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was injuries, availability. Unfortunately, I've had a couple people go down in this series. Giannis missed, one game? Giannis missed a game.
Yeah, went out halfway through game one.
Halfway through game one, missed all of game two. Tyler Hero broke his hand and is out for the entire series, but this series has come down to one man and one man only, Mr. Jimmy Butler. 56 points.
Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for gets.
Jimmy gets buckets. Broke the Heat franchise record for most points in a playoff game. And I saw a stat that by game score, which accounts for everything, including defense, field goal percentage, points, rebounds, assists, all the counting sets as well. Jimmy Butler has the top 10 Heat playoff performances ever.
Wow.
All him.
Wow. That's incredible.
If he wins a championship this year, there are going to be some uncomfortable conversations we're going to have about, the Heat and their history.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stats you just threw at us are mind-blowing, considering you look at all the great players that have played in a Heat uniform, not just with the big three. You also had Shaq there in their first championship, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway. For Jimmy Butler to be achieving the legendary status for that Heat franchise that he is incredible. We know who he is in the playoffs. We've seen it. Obviously, in the bubble was, I think, really where we saw his capabilities and his capacity at the highest level in the NBA Finals. So I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that he could do this, but the fact that he did do this is incredible. And like you said, the glaring elephant in the room is, what's going on with the Bucks right now? Obviously, you got to put a slight asterisk on this series because Giannis missed a game or two. Maybe he's not 100% healthy, whatever it might be. But as far as the game that just happened, it's a bit inexcusable because at that point the Bucks are completely healthy, and you have one guy you have to stop, and that's Jimmy Butler. So I guess we could break it down from both sides. I don't know if you saw in Vegas that the Bucks are actually plus 110 to win this series.
Wow.
And they have the sixth best odds to win the championship still.
Still?
Yeah. Even though they're down 3-1. They're going back to Milwaukee for Game 5, which is tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see what happens. They're actually 12-point favorites. So Vegas, thinks if anybody could do this, it could be the Bucks. But I mean, the way the Heat are playing, I think it's going to be tough to win 3 games in a row. But regardless, I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Dude, you're telling me, man. I think all 3 of us had the Bucks either in the Eastern Conference Championship or in the finals. I had the Bucks winning the entire thing, and they might be out round 1. This is just a testament to how hard Jimmy Butler plays, and kind of a testament to how deep the East is as a whole. We'll get into some of the other series in the East, but no series has been a cakewalk besides the Nets Sixers. No series at all has been a cakewalk. The East is really deep, and every single team has a star, which is pretty crazy.
And we'll obviously touch on this later in the show, but the Heat are one of 2 teams that are play-in team up 3-1 on the higher seed, which is crazy. I feel like the NBA playoffs, as exciting as it is, and as great that the basketball itself is and the storylines we see, I feel like you don't see a lot of upsets in these early rounds at all. It's not like March Madness. It's not like the MLB or NFL. It's pretty predictable in the first round, but this year has clearly been different.
Yeah, usually it's chalk. This year, not so much. I think, Jimmy wasn't an all-star this season. He had arguably one of the best seasons he's had statistically, one of the most productive seasons he's had. It's time for people to stop sleeping on this man. You saw he carried a team to the finals in the bubble last year, 1 shot away from making the finals, and now he's up 3-1 on the best team in the NBA. It's time to give this man his flowers.
And to do this efficiently, too, on 19 of 28 shooting is pretty ridiculous. And, no disrespect to any of the rest of the roster, but we talked about Hero goes down. Oladipo,
he's done for the season.
Unsure about the details about that, but yeah, I've heard it's the career. Kyle Lowry has clearly been relegated to the bench, and if that has to be for reasons. So we'll just say that Kyle Lowry's production is probably not as what it used to be. You're starting Gabe Vincent, Strus, and a washed-up Kevin Love.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of quality, let's just say, starting players on this team. A lot of role players that have really had to come into their own. It's really Butler and Adebayo out here.
Looking at not even the starters, dude. They don't have any depth in their starting lineup, let alone their bench. They got Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Cody Zeller, and who is this? Haywood Highsmith?
I've never heard of this Highsmith guy.
That guy was he was Division II Basketball Player of the Year. He's a Division II player.
Duncan Robinson is virtually unplayable in the starting role because of his defense. Vincent and Strus had terrible games. Strus took 1 shot.
Wow.
He's there for a shooting. Gabe Vincent, clearly the scoring wasn't there. Kevin Love, not much. Bam Adebayo, a bad game, 6 of 16.
He hasn't really had a good series, which is surprising. But he has been locking down Giannis somewhat.
Yeah,
Giannis, he really struggled in Game 4.
That's true. You have the guys like Bam, you have the guys like Robert Williams that can kind of neutralize Giannis a little bit. You're going to give your team a shot to win the game. But as far as the offensive load, I mean, Jimmy's. I think what we're trying to iterate here is Jimmy's just putting a team on his back.
It's a complete carry job. Yeah. I will say this, though, for the Bucks, Brook Lopez should never, ever be leading the team in scoring.
No.
Not when you have Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Although, give him his flowers, though. 36 is pretty incredible for him.
Yeah, 36, but if Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton drop 20, Bucks win this game.
Very inefficient games for Holiday and Middleton, and I don't know whether that speaks more to them or to the defense of the Heat. Obviously, when you have Eric Spoelstra and the right personnel on the team, you're going to have a great defensive team. But I totally agree with you. That's just completely unacceptable, especially if Chris Middleton's, was thought of as a very reliable second option on a championship-winning team. This is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, Vegas thinks this series is far from over, but I think Heat fans out there, not super, out of the woods yet, but in a very good position to make some noise, maybe even later rounds too. What series do you want to talk about next?
think we'll just go right down to the next one in the East. Let's talk about the Celtics-Hawks. Shout out to Trae Young yesterday. Mr. Game Winner from almost the logo.
He shot that from Atlanta, actually.
And, I got to give the Hawks credit. I thought it was between them and the Wolves, worst teams to make the playoffs, in my opinion. And they really have given the Celtics a run for their money. This does concern me a little bit for the Celtics, that they weren't able to put away the Hawks at home when they had that lead. You can't let a team like the Hawks stick around. The Celtics are too good to be doing this. But you got to give credit where credit's due. Trae Young had arguably his best playoff game ever last night.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And we talked a while back last show about how the Hawks, outside of that one Eastern Conference Finals appearance, have really made no noise in the playoffs and have been pretty underwhelming. I think they gained a lot of popularity with that series versus the Knicks and went on to play the Bucks and push them to, more than just a sweep. But 100% agree with you. Trae Young, outstanding in this game. Maybe not entirely efficient, but at the end of the day, 38 points, 13 assists, and a game winner is pretty darn good. The number that's really, and this speaks to what you were saying about the Celtics, the number that's really concerning to me is if you look at how many points the Hawks scored in the fourth quarter. 37. They didn't give the highest scoring quarter before that in that game was 30 for the Hawks, then 28, 24, then 37. You just I feel like how many championship winning teams have we seen that give up offensive explosions in the fourth quarter? That's just something you cannot do. It's a lack of discipline. It's maybe a lack of quality coaching. And sure, this isn't the greatest sample size, but you have to look at who they're playing and put this in context. And as you're saying, this is one of the worst teams in the playoffs. And the fact that it's 3-2 is a little baffling to me.
You can't let Trae Young be the guy that beats you. Make somebody else on the Hawks win the game for them. Jaylen Brown, 35 points. But you nailed the point on the head, Truett. You can't give up 37 in the fourth to the Hawks. Much less, you can't let Trae Young torch you in the fourth quarter. Make somebody else beat you. Make Bogdan Bogdanovic step up.
Yeah. I mean, to play a little devil's advocate, to the defenders' credit, they were already maybe like 3 steps ahead of the three-point line where they were standing on defense, and Trae Young was another 3 steps. But I 100% agree. You need to be right up on that man to the point where he has to get the ball away. I wish Rank was here to defend the Celtics on their depth, but a couple question marks come to mind. Why is Robert Williams not starting, first of all? I like Derek White as a player, but I think he's better utilized with his bench scoring because if you look at the bench as a result, it's just Brogdon now. Blake Griffin played 6 minutes, and Sam Hauser played 14 and pretty much gave you very minimal production. I think moving Derek White back to the bench gives you a lot of great punch off the bench, and then Robert Williams is there for his defense. I don't know why he's not in the starting rotation.
I agree. I think even having Al Horford come off the bench instead to provide a little veteran leadership, and you won't see things like this happen. Another thing, the Celtics shooting pretty poorly from 3. They shot 31% from 3, but at home in a closeout game, that's not something you want to see.
Tatum 1 for 10 from 3.
What was really killer
disgusting.
And what lost them the game was their free throw shooting, which is inexcusable in a closeout game at home in the playoffs. You can't shoot 53% from the line. That can't happen. So I'm expecting the Celtics are the better team. I'm expecting them to go into Atlanta and finish the job, get it done, no questions asked. If they don't, there's a game 7. All bets are off.
Yeah, and I mean, just to reiterate, I think the 2 series that we've recapped so far, top dogs in the East, Titans of the East, series are not really going the way we thought. Even if the outcome might be the same for this one, not the way we thought at all. Moving on to the next series, which not really too much to talk about here. Definitely surprising. Sixers sweep the Nets.
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think this was too surprising. The Nets they don't beat the Sixers in any facet of the game, and Jacques Vaughn had his game plan. he was throwing everything at Joel Embiid. Every time he touched the ball, they were double teaming him. It's a smart move, but the Sixers just have too many other weapons off ball that could beat you. Tobias Harris had a good series. Harden was making threes. Had a little trouble getting to the rim and finishing. Maxey was playing great. The Sixers, this was without a sweat. There were some close games. They had to make a couple comebacks in the second half, but this was a pretty easy series that looked like it was going to be over before it started.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point the Nets just did not have the personnel to really carry them through an upset. We've talked about, we love the pieces they have. Mikal Bridges, has had a great stretch since being traded, but it's a small sample size, and we haven't seen him be the number one guy in the playoffs, and they're going to need more pieces. Maybe he's the number 2 guy in the playoffs. But a sweep to me isn't super surprising. It's less surprising than some of the other series we've talked about. Interesting point. It doesn't really have too much relevance, but the Nets were swept last year too, which is just kind of funny. Completely different teams, but same outcome. I think this is nothing to If you're a Nets fan or the Nets organization in general, from top to bottom, you're not hanging your head on this series.
Absolutely not.
You came out. You traded away a champion, 2 champions, one of which was an MVP and a Finals MVP, and you came out with a pretty good core. On the other side, which I don't think happens very often in NBA history. So the Nets. Maybe they make some moves, offload some of the contracts, free up some space to sign someone else. It'll be really interesting to see what they do in the offseason. But, Sixers got the rest they needed to be prepared for the winner of Hawks Heat. Hawks Celtics.
A little more on the Nets. We've seen a developing story of Damian Lillard being linked to them this offseason. Him and Mikal Bridges are really good buddies. I hate to say it, the Nets are Damian Lillard away from being serious title contenders. If they get Dame, he's kind of their missing star right now. They need a guard that can play make, a guard that can score at a superstar level, take a little bit of the load off Mikal Bridges, get Claxton these open, easy dunks. If they get Dame Lillard, the Nets are going to be a serious team.
Yeah, and they have the capital to go out and get something, which is funny because in the last couple of years they've provided a lot of capital to other teams to go get stars, but it's kind of been a little bit of a return to normalcy for them, just because they're kind of back to ground zero. So. Yeah, they have the capital to go out and do that, and I don't know what they would give the Blazers. You'd have to give young talent, so I don't think they would want Dorian. You'd probably have to throw Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas in there.
I mean, if you're getting Dame, though, that's nothing. You get Dame and you give up, 2 young guys. Can't hear. You give up I can't hear.
You give up 2 young guys, and I mean, it's for the GM to worry about, but it's going to be a pretty interesting offseason, and I mean, I don't think there's too much to talk about with the Nets on this side.
Yeah, let's move on to Knicks Cavs. This has been one of the better series. The Knicks have just been flat out dominating the boards. We talked about the Cavs bigs and how they were going to have an impact defensively. Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Josh Hart have really been putting the Cavs in rebounding hell. I think their offensive, they're out rebounding them on the offensive glass by plus 30 or something like that through 4 games. It's absolutely absurd. And of course, Brunson's just been taking over. Julius Randle's been having a good series. RJ had a great game last game. The Knicks have been firing on all cylinders. And in MSG, man, I would not want to play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. That's a tough environment to go into, and they embrace it. But biggest player in the series, Josh Hart.
Yeah.
His energy's been unbelievable. Just the way he attacks. He does all the dirty work, all the hustle. And it really is great to see.
I think one of the craziest things about this series is the Cavs were never what I would consider an elite offensive team. You know, you take away Donovan Mitchell, you're kind of lacking a lot of offensive options. You know, Garland can do his playmaking and create his own shot. But, you know, they hang their hat on their defense. And the stat that blows my mind is outside of that Game 2 win by the Cavs, the Cavs have not cracked 100. They scored in Game 3 79 points.
Lowest points ever this season.
Yeah. In the playoffs, which I think is very attributable to the Knicks defense. And Tom Thibodeau's always been a defensive-minded coach. I think it's phenomenal that he has this entire team really locked in and committed on the defensive end. And to bring up your point about the rebounding, did you see what Josh Hart said? There's a quote from it that he said to Mitchell Robinson. He's like, "You get regular boards, I get boards that break teams," which is, I think is very true. You see a lot of players that get offensive rebounds at the end of games, and that's frustrating. You know, if you're in a tight game, and let's say you're down 2 or up 2, and you give up an offensive rebound to a guard after playing 20 seconds of really solid defense, it's demoralizing, and I think that says a lot. Not only are you giving them another possession from the basketball perspective, but mentally, that's got to be completely demoralizing.
Absolutely. I'm looking at their stats from Game 4 right now. So Julius Randle got them 2 rebounds. That was the lowest on the team besides Miles McBride. Obi Toppin and Isaiah Hartenstein came off the bench, each played 20 minutes, grabbed 8 boards each. When you're just giving up that production to bench pieces, you're not going to be able to win games, especially when the starting point guard, Brunson, and Josh Hart are grabbing 6 and 7 rebounds each. Not to mention you have Mitchell Robinson, and that's all he does. The Knicks' defense has been insane, and their rebounding has been otherworldly, and that's why they're up 3-1 in this series.
17 offensive rebounds in the last game that they played.
How can you can't win a game if you give up 17 offensive boards?
That's 17 additional possessions.
Yeah, 17 extra shots.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they're up 3-1. They've had the energy, they've had the dog in them this series. The Cavs have looked slow. They've looked weak, and they don't really have that fight that the Knicks have.
Yeah, and it would be extremely inappropriate if we didn't give Jalen Brunson his flowers.
Oh, yeah.
Nova alum, obviously. He has shown that he is worth every penny of that contract. I saw somewhere on Instagram that the annual salary he makes actually goes down next year. This first year, it's very front-loaded. This is the highest he's going to be making in the 4-year contract he signed, which just shows it's a complete steal of a deal. Assuming he only gets better from here, even if he plateaus at this production, I think that's amazing for the Knicks. And yeah, I think the Cavs have the potential to put up a fight and keep this series going, maybe for another game. But the Knicks are looking really strong and scary for whoever team they play. Even if they don't win, it's going to be a frustrating game for the opponent.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, how about we move over to the West? We'll talk about the 1v8 matchup. The Nuggets beat the Wolves last night 4-1. The first 3 games of this series, it was just bad basketball. The Nuggets just beating up on a sorry team, and then the Wolves stole a game. And Ant said, we might be the first team to come back from a 3-0 deficit. Well, that just didn't happen. I will give Ant his flowers. He played a great series besides the first game. Last night, literally carrying them. It was close, but when you have Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert on your team, it's going to be tough to win games where you need to have that energy and have that grind and have that dog, because those two just do not possess it. But if I'm the Wolves, this is a little enlightening that you didn't get swept. And it really came into his own these playoffs.
Yeah, I think we're seeing. I don't want to say a budding superstar, because I'm going to save that phrase for another young guard that we'll talk about. But definitely a player who has come into his own, and we gave him his critique for the play-in games. He did not show up that first play-in game, and it was pretty pathetic. But, I mean, what a shot to win that game. Kind of willing this team to win. And was last night the overtime game? I might be mixing the games up because I know he hit the game winner, and I think he hit a shot.
No, last night.
2 nights ago.
Last night was not in overtime. It was game 4 was.
Yeah, so that was the one, sent it to overtime, and then a huge contributor to the win. I think this is totally what we were expecting. Probably the most unsurprising series so far that we've covered. But, I think the future, if you're looking at the Wolves, you're still scratching your head about the Gobert trade. I don't think Cat looked as good as you would want him to look, now that he has a couple years of playoff experience, a good amount of years under his belt of NBA experience, maybe not what you were expecting, but if you want to look at the bright side, Anthony Edwards is going to be a star one day.
Absolutely. And shout out to Jamal Murray. He is back in peak playoff form, man. It's so exciting to see a guy who's battled through injuries come back and perform at this high of a level, especially in the playoffs. Him and Jokic, I think, can really do some damage because a lot of the teams in the West, it's really wide open, and these two are very unstoppable. I just want to hit on this really quick. Last night, Jokic did not have the best game shooting-wise, but he was able to foul out both Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, who were guarding him the entire game. It's just a testament to how great this man is at basketball.
He looks like a cheat code sometimes.
In their loss, he dropped 43 points. Yesterday, he had 28, 17, and 12.
He had a triple-double going into the fourth.
He's putting up 2K numbers in the playoffs. I hate to say it. I really think the Nuggets are the team to beat in the West. I mean, okay, they dropped one game in overtime away to the Timberwolves. But for the most part, they have looked really, really good this series, and I think they're going to do some damage this playoff run.
Yeah, I have to be fair, and I was really adamant on my statement on the show last week about how I think Westbrook is one of those players who, even if he's putting up terrible shooting numbers, can still really impact the game. And when I was looking at Jokic, his stats going to the fourth, he had a triple-double, and I saw that initially. And then I saw he was shooting 28% from the field. And I was like, this is pretty much absurdity. And the same thing goes for him. Just his court awareness offensively, his ability to rebound, his ability to pass. You look at some of the things he's doing, it's just it is a 2K cheat code. And I think the Nuggets, if they're 1-8, they'll be playing 4-5. So they're not really getting any rest because the Suns just beat the Clippers last night. Mm-hmm. But they should have enough momentum to carry into that series.
Yeah, there was just one play that stuck out to me. Jamal Murray and Jokic were on a little fast break. Jamal goes by his man, quick pass, quick dish to Jokic. Jokic gives a little up fake, gets Ant and Gobert to jump in the air. Both of them foul him at almost the exact same time. He just throws it up and one, sealed the game. It was just, this man, there's nothing this man cannot do, and the way that him and Jamal complement each other, I think they're going to be tough to stop, especially with guys like Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter Jr. played terrible yesterday shooting-wise, but turned it up in the fourth quarter. And then you get valuable minutes from Bruce Brown, KCP, Uncle Jeff, and Christian Brown off the bench. I think the Nuggets really are a dangerous team this playoffs. We'll get into the Lakers-Grizzlies next.
Which has been a great series.
Another somewhat surprising series. I think all three of us picked the Lakers to win this series. I did not think it was going to be this dominant.
Yeah, and I mean we have to again put a little asterisk. Ja did miss a game, which they did end up, I think, beating the Lakers.
They won, yeah,
which was incredible. But yeah, to your point, this has not been the way we looked at it. Obviously, Game 1, Reeves and Rui Hachimura had great games. LeBron and AD have kind of done their thing in games 2, 3, and 4, but I think my favorite part of the series has just been the drama and the quotes and the headlines. I mean, you want to talk about obviously LeBron has a list of people of antagonizers. You know, you go back since he came into the league. You look at the Lance Stevensons, the Deshaun Stevensons, even like the Draymond Greens, people that, you know, really put themselves out in the media as targeting LeBron and making him uncomfortable. It looked like Dylan Brooks was going to be the next guy, but LeBron quickly made him
shut that down.
Yeah, he shut that down. I think the famous quote that's going around is "I'm out" for his media talk after, I want to say it was Game 4. You know, it's put your money where your mouth is type of basketball. You know, he's saying there's all these quotes coming out. You got to drop 40 on me for me to respect you. They said, they referenced how 3 months ago he said make LeBron go left, and then LeBron hit the game winner on him going left. But I mean, does any of this surprise you?
No,
No.
not at all. The Grizzlies have been a cocky, arrogant team for the better part of these past 2 seasons, and for really no reason. So it's really nice to see the veteran Lakers just punishing them. Shout out to my boy Austin Reeves. Had a beautiful game 1, and last game he led the team in points, 23. But the Lakers have been getting valuable production from all of their role players, and this is something that they needed to do, and why they bolstered up at the trade deadline. Even though Jared Vanderbilt hasn't been, you know, a really offensive oriented guy, he's been playing great defense. Rui's been insane. Dennis Schroeder's been having a really good series for them too. But when AD and LeBron get going, this team's really tough to stop.
I'm going to ask you this question, you know, taking into consideration that D'Lo had a stretch of like 3 straight threes that really gave him momentum. Is D'Lo, would you say he's playable in crunch time?
You know, game 1, he was kind of the reason why the Grizzlies were in the game, even though he had 20 points. The problem for me is if he has to guard Ja, it's just such an issue. That's why they're putting Reeves on Ja. He really can't guard anyone, and his first step is just so slow. If he's not hitting threes, he's not valuable whatsoever. His playmaking is not what it used to be. I'd rather have the ball. I hate to say it, I'd rather have the ball in Reeves' hands for playmaking. You know, you see what him and LeBron have been able to do this series. I don't know if D'Lo is that guy, and certainly looking at their next round matchup of either the Kings or the Warriors, I don't want D'Lo guarding Curry or De'Aaron Fox. That is for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think D'Lo has been probably I'll just say he has not been the first most valuable piece in that trade package they got from the T-Wolves, not even by a mile. And one thing I do want to touch on, you know, I know John Morant occasionally listens to our podcast, so Joff, if you're listening to this, please stop just trying to jump over everybody. That I don't even want to call it a dunk attempt. It was more of just a jump as high as I can and try to get a foul attempt. When he tried to jump over LeBron, and they ended up calling a charge. That looked really scary. And if you keep doing that, you're not going to have a long career. Especially, you're already playing with a broken hand or whatever it is, you know. And he every time he lands, the camera pans to him, and he's shaking his hands like you know, in pain. And it's just like, it's very reckless, and it's immature almost, because, you know, this franchise has basically crowned you the king of the franchise going forward, and invested a lot of money into you, and to play like this is just very disrespectful to them.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. It is a little immature. I don't understand it. Like, it's just such an unsustainable way to play basketball, just to jump into everyone, because one day you're going to lose that explosiveness, and you can't play the same way. And it's really like you take a step back, and seeing Ja do this, every time I see him go up like that, I kind of hold my breath a little bit, because I might not like him like as a person. I think he's done some pretty crappy things, but as a basketball player, you have to appreciate, you know, what he's able to do. But man, it's scary seeing him jump in the air and just throw his body around like that with absolutely no regard. I totally agree with that. I think, I've seen some takes on Twitter that said the Grizzlies have a chance to come back this series. I just think the Lakers, with their experience, and they have LeBron James, they're not going to lose this series. They're not blowing a 3-1 lead. No way. Absolutely not.
I think if they win this series, for the Grizzlies, John and Desmond Bane would each have to average 30, and Jaren Jackson would have to average 5 blocks a game. We know Dylan Brooks is in his head, so I think if you're not stopping the Lakers offensively, you're just trying to outscore them and just hope Jaren Jackson can provide enough rim protection. But it should look like the Lakers will be playing the winner of Kings Warriors, which great segue into that series. What do you have for that series?
It's been phenomenal. There's been a couple questionable things. We talked about Draymond's suspension last show.
Ended up winning that game.
They did.
Yeah.
Ended up winning that game. The Warriors just look, for the better part of the season, they look unstoppable at home. The big question mark is how they can play away. I think this is a make or break game tonight. De'Aaron Fox has a broken finger. He said there's absolutely no way I'm sitting out. Shout out to De'Aaron Fox, because I wish a lot more professional athletes had that mentality, that grit and grind. I want to be out there. It's the playoffs. He's not leaving any prisoners, and that's the way a lot of athletes should think. The Kings, I'm not too worried about them. They were one open 3 away from being up 3-1 on the defending champs. They're playing at home tonight in Sacramento. Their fans are going to be in full force. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to go absolutely crazy, even with his broken hand. Sabonis is going to torch. I'm not worried at all about them. I will say this, though. If they lose tonight, I think the Warriors will win at home. I just think this is a classic series of whoever's the home team has that big, big advantage.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you're saying. The Game 5 winner of a 2-2 series has advanced 82% of the time.
Yeah.
So, not even including that this series has its own unique circumstances and unique momentum shifts and unique home-away advantages. Game 5 is going to be crucial. Want to reiterate what you said about De'Aaron Fox. I watched the post-game or the practice interview when he said, everyone's banged up and, I can still shoot fine. Like I'll be fine with this. I think it's completely honorable. This series has been really interesting. I think we should touch on a very uncharacteristic Curry blunder. That,
oh yeah,
Game 4 should not have been as close as it was. They were a Harrison Barnes potential 3 away from losing. But a Curry blunder that you really don't see out of him. He's a very high IQ player. For anyone that's not aware, Warriors did not have any timeouts left. I believe they were up.
I think 4. I think they were up 4 because they got
4.
They had the ball. He called a timeout,
which is a technical foul if you call a timeout with no timeouts left.
Free throw and you lose possession, which
is
they scored on.
Huge.
Yeah.
So that's a 3-point swing right there. But and you look at Steve Kerr's face and he was furious. And it's kind of like a J.R. Smith type of moment there, which I never thought I'd be saying about Curry. And while that did give the Kings the chance to get back in the game and have a chance to win the game, outside of the De'Aaron Fox 3 at the end of the game, they went 1 of 8 in like the last 3 minutes, which is a sign of inexperience. The Warriors have been in these moments, and I don't think we would ever say that about the Warriors, that they would go 1 of 8 in the last 3 minutes. The Kings, at the end of the day, are a young team. They haven't made the playoffs since 2006 or something like that. But none of that really matters because yes, a 3-1 and a 2-2 series are very different. You still have Game 5 tonight. You still have the chance to go out there and win this. And trust me, I will have my popcorn ready and be on the edge of my seat the entire time.
10 p.m. It's going to be a great game. I am so excited for this one. I think this is the game that makes or breaks the series for me.
Yeah. And I think the game that makes or breaks legacies for not only the Kings, but I mean, how long can this Warriors dominance continue? And I do want to, I very rarely shout out Draymond. In fact, last show did the complete opposite. I saw this article that said it was a very clickbait title, but it was like how a Draymond Green suspension might have saved them the series.
Give him a little fire.
It was on ESPN, but it was also because Draymond, I guess, studied a tremendous amount of film during that time and told Steve Kerr, I want to come off the bench. Now, once I realized it was kind of a clickbait title, I clicked away from the article. I did not finish reading this. I'll be completely honest. But I would assume that a lot of that had to do with Draymond Green seeing how, the different lineups, you have the offensive advantages of starting certain players and then the defensive advantages of bringing Draymond Green in certain times. But he went to Steve Kerr and said, I think you should bench me, which for a player of Draymond Green's caliber, A, is honorable. B, for someone who's a second-round pick and has always had a chip on his shoulder, and has worked his butt off to become a Defensive Player of the Year and a champion and a face of a dynasty, or one of the faces of a dynasty, I think is a bit honorable. And I rarely say good things about Draymond Green, but I think that was pretty impressive. And I'm curious to see what Steve Kerr does for tonight.
Well, he showed in his Game 4 performance. He did not shoot that well from the field, 3 of 14, but 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block off the bench, +8, plus-minus. You can't ask for better than that. And he's just been their leadership guy for this entire Warriors dynasty. And, I'm happy he was able to overcome everything that happened in Game 2 with the ejection and then the suspension, yelling at the fans. I never thought I'd be praising Draymond Green like this, but he's really turned it around.
Yeah. And again, that's going to be probably one of the most exciting series that's still going on right now. And then this is going to be a sad one to talk about because I think you got to put an asterisk on it, but you got to also just, this was an injury-riddled series. Suns beat the Clippers 4-1 last night. It came out today that Kawhi actually had a torn meniscus, and I feel bad because I very publicly called Kawhi very soft for not being able to play in these moments, and he may have been soft in the past. In fact, Stephen A. even said today that that Steve Ballmer and the Clippers should force Kawhi to retire because of how unreliable he is. I think that's a little ridiculous as well, but I shouldn't have been as hard on him and shouldn't have called him soft. If it is a torn meniscus, that's a pretty big deal, but
what does Paul George have?
Something in his knee I don't think it was a torn meniscus. But I think the two takeaways, and I would love to get your opinions on these. The two takeaways from this is, A, I just want to commend Russ on a job well done. I'm pretty sure the first 4 games he blocked Durant, which just shows that he was continuing that hustle and that defense, playmaking and rebounding, even though Game 5 was kind of back to the Russ tour date numbers shooting-wise. And then another thing I would love to get your opinion on is, how are any of these games really close when you have the personnel you do and you're playing a team whose best player is Russell Westbrook at the age of 34?
I just don't think the Suns are that complete. They have their guys. They have, obviously, Booker had a great series, and it pains me to say that. But you have Booker, KD, CP3, and Ayton. That should be enough to win you games easily. They don't have anybody else besides that, though. And, when the Clippers are sending out a lineup of Batum, Bones Highland, Terrence Mann, Norm Powell, and Miles Plumlee, and you're giving up like a 20-5 run in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like what's going on with the Suns? This series, I said it last week, I'll say it again. They are very lucky the Clippers weren't healthy, because if they were, I think this game is over in 5 games. Clippers win easily, too. If they had Kawhi yesterday, they'd win that game. They had Paul George yesterday, they'd win that game. You can't give up 35 points to Russell Westbrook and Norman Powell consistently.
Yeah.
Going against the Nuggets next, I'm telling you, it's not going to be this easy. And, people say star power wins you playoff games. Well, the Suns' stars may have shown up offensively, defensively, absolutely not. They're just very lucky that they had a 34-year-old Eric Gordon having to guard Devin Booker last night. Otherwise, we'd be talking about some very different things. I guess shout out Book though. He dropped 47. Great shooting. You know why the Suns won this game though? In the third quarter, they outscored the Clippers 50-24.
Yeah, and that's absurd. And Devin Booker outscored them himself, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just to echo that point, Westbrook, Norman Powell, I love those players, but Norman Powell was a sixth man that was forced into the starting role. Russell Westbrook has been inefficient his entire career, and to let him shoot 36% from three of the series is pretty unacceptable, if you ask me. And for someone whose career, as much as I hate to see it, was on a downward trajectory, to average 24, 7, and 7, a steal and a block. And if once Kawhi goes down, that's probably the guy, along with Norman Powell, you have to guard, it's just unacceptable. If I'm Monty Williams, I am implementing some sort of discipline because it's inexcusable how easy it was for Westbrook and Norman Powell in certain games to just get downhill. Mm-hmm. You got to give credit to guys like Batum and Eric Gordon hit some shots when they needed to. Zubac is always a very reliable player. Plumlee is, he's there. But I mean, this roster, this should have been 4 straight blowouts after Kawhi went down.
We talked about this after Game 1, and I think last game, Game 5, represents this as well. The Phoenix Suns shot 54% from the field and 50% from 3, and were sweating this game out. Absolutely sweating this game. Almost gave up one of the worst chokes I've ever seen. This can't happen because you're going to go up against better teams where you're not going to get 50-point third quarters. You're not going to do that against the Nuggets. I mean, they have the star power there, but they really gotta step up because 47 from Booker shouldn't be what wins you this game. You shouldn't have to have the most points for this guy in his playoff career. You shouldn't have to have that to win a Game 5 versus the Clippers, who are missing their 2 best players.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I think they are in trouble. I really do.
And looking forward, the only series that we know for sure, I think, is just Nuggets Suns.
Yeah.
That's the only series we definitively know. The Sixers obviously will be advancing.
Probably Sixers
Celtics.
And I guess Knicks Heat right now. It's looking like
that's weird. So I mean that's all we have for the NBA.
But we want to give a little prediction for this one series that we know of.
Yeah, Nuggets. I feel like we did any of us predict Nuggets Suns, or did we both take Clippers?
I don't know. I mean, under the pretense that we thought the Clippers were going to be healthy.
Yeah.
Whatever. What do you got? Who are you taking in this series?
I mean, it's 2 very different teams. Nuggets play, obviously they have Jokic and Murray, but they play they get a great production from their shooters. Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., the bench players, they get production all throughout the lineup. The Suns are the complete opposite. They have 3 go-to guys and Aiden. And they're going to get no production. Josh Okogie had like 1 good game. Who's the other guy that's been playing for them?
Torrey Craig.
Yeah, production from 3 guys. Do you have a prediction? I'm still thinking about mine. I don't know if you have one ready.
I think the key player for the Suns in this series is going to be Kevin Durant. I think Booker's going to be able to do his thing again, but having KD on the floor opens up so much for him. And my key player for the Nuggets is going to be, I think the guys that's going to be guarding him, Aaron Gordon. What Jokic has been able to do, he kind of created Aaron Gordon the player he is now. Aaron Gordon plays great defense. He is going to get 18 and 10 a night on easy buckets in the paint. Can rebound. I just think the Nuggets have too much depth, and no one on the Suns can guard Jokic. I know Suns swept them last year. Whatever, Suns in 4. They were missing their 2 other best players, Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's going to give Chris Paul a run for his money. I'm taking Nuggets in 6.
Yeah, I like that point because Chris Paul is not the defender he used to be. Devin Booker's never been a good defender. What'd you say? You said you said Nuggets in
6.
I'm gonna go Nuggets in 7. I think it's gonna go to 7. I just didn't know which way it was gonna lean. But yeah, I mean that's gonna be a great series again.
Heavily rooting for the Nuggets.
I think there's
Heavily.
a huge amount of variability about how this could go. I think there's every possible outcome I think could happen.
Yeah.
Outside of like sweeping each other. But yeah, I think it's going to be a phenomenal series, and all the series that are still going on right now are going to be great too. I think that's all we really have. This is just kind of going to be an NBA recap. Shout out the Aaron Rodgers deal for getting, completed. Biggest surprise. Did you see the video of the Jet fan walking into a Milwaukee bar and wearing a Jets jersey and just kind of pooping on the fans there.
I feel
Aaron Rodgers.
I feel for Packers fans, man. They have really gotten the short end of the stick these past couple of years with players. Really have.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough having 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks for the last 30 years. It's
and only winning one championship.
Did Favre never win one?
Oh, I think he won 1.
Still, it's kind of unacceptable.
Yeah, he won 1. 1997.
Not too much winning at the highest level going on. Next week, when our dearest Shawn Michael comes back, we'll get into, I guess, the draft and as well as everything that's going on in the MLB, and obviously we'll have our NBA stuff, and then ranks Max Scherzer's segment, which should be really great to hear. Any birthdays today?
Yes, sir. We got a bunch of good birthdays. Shout out to Mr. 99, Aaron Judge.
Wow.
He turns 31 today.
Do they play? I think they do play.
No idea, but
Maybe a little birthday homer.
that would be nice.
It's on my fantasy team, so I would love that.
Another baseball player, Mr. Joey Wendell. Moving over to basketball, we got a couple guys you've heard of. Mo Wagner, happy birthday. DeLon Wright,
Wow.
enjoy it, my man. He's turning 31.
DeLon Wright's 31? He was on the
Wright's
Mavs at one
31.
point, right?
He was, yeah. In the NFL, we got backup quarterback. I don't think he's a backup anymore, but Mr. Tom Savage. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, Texans
legend.
Texans GOAT.
And Bailey Zappi. Happy
Yeah.
birthday to Bailey Zappi.
Is that the Patriots third stringer that was giving Mac a run for his money?
Mm-hmm. And then other than that, I'm looking at soccer, hockey. Nobody in particular that we got to say happy birthday to, but just those legends.
Happy birthday to you guys. Aaron Rodgers, go have yourself a day. Everyone else, whose birthday it is, go have yourself a day as well.
One more. Soccer player. He's turned 46 today. Valdemir Loreno Goncalves Gomez Teixeira. Happy birthday.
What a name.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Everyone go celebrate appropriately. Have a great day. It's 2:05 p.m., Wednesday, April 26, 2023. Fun in the Locker Room signing out. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next week. As always, we'll have some fun in the Locker Room, debates, takes, and everything in between. You're listening to 89.1 FM WXVU. You're going to have some music coming up after these ads. Have a great rest of your week.